What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the Red Type Politics channel. Well, here it is. Trump has announced his VP. As many of you all know, it is JD Vance. I will share my thoughts on that later, but I want to show the map that I now have, which is a little updated just because I have some personal thoughts that may go into the ticket that I do have a slight feeling that may happen. I have some things to update, but yeah, let's get into it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support on my last few videos. They've been doing really, really well, especially the governor and the house prediction one that got 600 plus views. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's see if we can match that or even do better on this one. Let's see. I'm gonna set a goal for you guys. Let's see if we can do it. I'm gonna probably not post as much just because I'm quite busy during the week, like days, and I most likely will post on the weekends. Probably both days of the weekends, just because I want to get videos out. I'll probably do pre-planned videos more, so I can get them out to you quickly, so I can just do a thumbnail and send them out to you guys so you guys can enjoy it. I want to make you guys happy, so alright, let's get into it. So let's start out with the safe states. I think you guys already know my templates, but I'll explain it again. This color shade of red is safe. Same thing for Biden, which is the Democrats, and same thing for the Independents, which I don't think I'll use that quite a bit unless we see some pretty interesting change in polls. But then we have the second shade of red, which is a little darker. A little lighter. Same thing for all three candidates. So this is like the lower tier of safe. Like it's between safe and likely. So then we have the likely, which is this shade of these colors. This one is the shade between likely, lean, and a high tilt. Same thing for the other candidates and vice versa. And then we have the last shade, which is the tilt margin, which is going to be the closest states. I will use this one quite a bit. So as you can see, the span in colors. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start out with the safe states, which, again, my first color of red. If you guys want to scroll back in the video for a little bit and see it again, you guys are happy to do so. Let's get started. So let's start out with the safe states for the Republican Party, which is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. So the safe states are Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's third, Nebraska's first. Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and the vice president state, Ohio. Same thing, which is this up here, Maine second, along with Alaska. And classify Florida as well, because it is Trump's home state. It used to be New York, but now, from when he changed it in 2020, it is Florida. Let's do it for the Democrat side. So, for the Democrats, this one is a little interesting just because a lot of these states are going to be between probably 13 and a half, somewhat, okay? Which will start on the West Coast and we'll go east. So we have California, Oregon, Washington State, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, District of Columbia, Maryland, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, or as I call it, Magachusetts. I turned that into a little name. Delaware, Biden's home state, Vermont, and Maine's first. This is an interesting develop just because you don't see the big giant 28 electoral votes, New York. I will explain this one once I get to it because this one has taken a lot of number crunching. Just because this one is going to between that safe margin and that second likely to safe. That's what I'm classifying it as now. Let's move on to the between likely and safe column, which will be the state of Texas. And that is it for the Republicans. For For the Democrats, it is Connecticut. Actually, we'll make Connecticut safe, because that one I don't think is going to be below 13 or 13 and a half. We have New York. This one I'm going to explain now. New York is a very interesting state. The polls that show it have it at 9. I don't believe it's at 9. Just because we have shifts around upstate New York, going towards Trump, Clinton County, for example, that is going to shift towards Republicans that did not vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I think now, just because we have a lot of people, especially because of the assassination attempt on Trump, and you have a bunch of other things that show it, you're going to have states like New York, New Jersey, which I'll get to in a minute. New Jersey is going to be a lot of the same about New York, but just a little bit closer. I have that one on the third shade now, just because it's going to be a likely. Okay, so New Jersey is a state where you have to perform well in New York to do well in New Jersey because of the Newark area, Secaucus, all of that areas around New York City, and yeah. So around, especially the north region of New Jersey, you have a lot of these factory workers, a lot of these areas that are out of business. That you have a lot of these factory workers who depend on a lot of these votes, and you can see like definitely a lot of things that Biden has done and put into place, like the Green New Deal, or as Trump calls it, the Green New Scam. I do think that affects Biden quite a bit, just because you have a lot of these workers that are now out of jobs, and since inflation is high, they can't pay for anything, causing homelessness. So, New Jersey, I have classified one tier lower than my usual videos. It used to be the same margin as I have New York as now. But, yeah, that one is a very interesting state. I'd love to see more developments from there. And we can also classify New Mexico as the third shade of that color. I think you guys have noticed, I'm doing the fourth and third shade, which is the higher likely and likely, just because there's not a lot of likely states for Biden and the Democrats. New Mexico has made a lot of interesting developments lately. I do not buy it yet that it's going to be within a lean margin. If I see more information, I'm going to definitely do the same thing I did for New York and New Jersey. I'm going to do the same thing for New Mexico, just to make sure I'm 100% correct. Because I do my own models, and I want to release that soon. But for now, this is what I'm going off of. But yeah, so these are the states that will be one of the closest in the election, which is Nevada, Arizona, Nebraska second, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia. Let's go on to the higher likely and the likely states, which will be North Carolina. Georgia will be that third shade of likely. I might bump it up to where North Carolina is, just because you're seeing a lot of these developments with black voters, and it's very interesting. And yeah, that's really it. And then we'll move on to the closest states. Probably, you know what? I'll put Virginia as that third. That one's gonna be around 5 to 6 points, maybe 4. So really, I can see it being that fourth shade. But yeah, okay. So let's move on to the last few states, which is 7 states. Not including Maine at large and Nebraska second, which is Nevada, Arizona, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire. New Hampshire is going to be that fourth shade. It's going to be around a lean margin. It's going to be a lean margin. I have it at around 4. You're probably asking me, why isn't it that third shade? Just because you're seeing a lot of these developments with these independent voters there was a poll that came out of Morning Consult that has Trump leading with independent voters by around 3 percentage points. That affects a lot of things. And especially with RFK and Nicole Shanahan, which is a name I have not mentioned in this video, except the start, that is going to affect a lot of things in the Northeast, hence why I put New Jersey and New York what they are. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to me how this is playing out, but I have to move this thing quite a bit to the right. I'm wondering how it goes next. Man at Large is going to be that 4th shade of blue. That one is going to be a little closer to New Hampshire, around 3 to 2 percentage points. I have it around 51 to 49, with Biden getting a majority, because if I'm using ranked class voting. But yeah, this one is a very interesting state, just because this one really depends on independent turnout, and if RFK does well, this one could turn to Trump, really. I wouldn't see why not. But yeah, that's my thing. And also Nebraska 2nd, same thing. It is going to be around that lean margin. That one is pretty self-explanatory. Omaha, around those areas, is going to be Democrat. So, yeah, that one is not turning back to Trump. It could, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's turn on the West Coast with these 2 states. We can classify Nevada as that 4th shade. And the reason why I'm putting that, just because we have a lot of these white voters, these white independent voters, that have changed over time. Like you saw in the midterms, that voted for a guy, Joe Lombardo, who was a very interesting guy to say the least. But, I mean, yeah, if you've seen a definitely shift to the right in Nevada, so I think now it flips. I've had it flip in my recent videos, but yeah. Arizona, this one is very interesting just because of the abortion stuff, and I can definitely see Vance affecting the ticket on this, and this is where my opinion comes into play. This one, I don't think I can classify as of now, just because this one is going to be so razor thin. Like I explained in my second video, my poly market video, or something around those, one of my videos showing off Arizona, and it was incredibly close. And really, I don't know how Vance will do with these voters who are McCain voters that Trump has not done a lot for. It is just very interesting. So right now, I will not classify Arizona, just because really I can see it going either way at this point. I don't know. J.D. Vance, I don't think does much for the ticket in the Sun Belt. Hence why I did actually want Marco Rubio from the state of Florida. I think he would have helped with Latino voters. And that's why I was going to feel confident putting Georgia in that 4th column. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what Trump assigns Vance and how it plays out. Listen, I could be completely wrong. But from what I'm seeing, I don't know. But these states are very interesting. We have the Rust Belt. These used to be competitive. These used to be the teller of the election, which they still are, but it comes down to this one big state, where the tragedy happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, just right here, where Trump had the assassination attempt. You saw, if you didn't look, I'm going to explain it, the betting odds for Pennsylvania went very far for Trump, which now gives me a reason to put Pennsylvania in the 4th shade. This one is going to be a lean margin. I have it around nearly 1.5. This one is a very interesting state just because we had Scranton Joe area right here. And I think Trump's going to do insanely well in that area. He's going to overperform. Same thing with Northampton County. I think he's going to do pretty well in Bucks. I know that one is shifting heavily to the left. But yeah, I think he's going to do really well around Bucks and the Philly area. So it's going to be very interesting. Let's move on to Michigan. This one, by the way, by giving Trump Pennsylvania, you're putting him over the top, so he wins. Michigan, I can classify as one of the closest states. This one is going to be just barely under my 4th shade, which is my lean margin. This one is interesting, just because you have a lot of these women voters who did basically made the election in Michigan in 2020. Especially Wayne County, Detroit area, all that. Trump's going to need to do really well, especially in Macomb County, right here, which determines a lot of things, like John James for his House run and all that. So right now, I do have Michigan around a 0.3 margin, 0.4, depending on how he does in a lot of these areas. Where everything is happening right now with the RNC, Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So, right now, I have Wisconsin as the 4th shade, which is my lean margin. That one is a little less than Pennsylvania, but higher than Michigan. That one I have around 1 point, exactly. Just because you saw an overperformance, well, somewhat, than Trump in 2022 with Ron Johnson. I know that one was a little underwhelming, but you can definitely see it from a lot of these things with a lot of these white voters that it is going for Trump by a considerable margin. More than my last video. The last state. This one I have talked about quite a bit. This one is a very interesting state. The last time I voted for a Republican was 1972 for Nixon. This one, it is going to be so tight. Same thing for Arizona. This one I can classify. I do think Trump narrowly wins the state. This is a state where Trump's going to do really, really well in the Minneapolis area. He's going to do well in the Iron region. He's going to do well there, which makes me believe that he's going to win it by a 0.1. This one is a new development in my prediction. So now, I know you guys may think you're classifying Minnesota, but you're not classifying Arizona. Arizona takes a lot more information than, like, Minnesota. Arizona is one of these states that we're going to take a minute. I think Biden's, like you saw in 2020, Biden overperformed in Arizona, the polls. Unlike most of the states, hence Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Arizona is one of these states, really, if I wanted to classify it, I would say it's going to be narrowly Biden. Like, narrowly, below 0.1 at this point. But for now, I'm not going to classify it just because it's that insanely close. So, my map right now is 311 electoral votes for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, 216 electoral votes for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, 0 for RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan, but they will get a considerable amount in the popular vote, and 11 tossed-up electoral votes from the state of Arizona. I do think Trump in this situation wins the popular vote by a slim margin around probably 0.4, 0.5, but yeah. Yeah, this is my map. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys want to see this. Again, I am very sorry and sad for what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. I will be releasing my statements. I do agree with how the post presidency said his statements. It was very heartfelt and it was very reasonable. But I will be releasing my statement shortly, probably after this video is posted. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll let you guys know what my video is next because I want to be doing that. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.